For fundamental truths. AD on the radio.
Every day you're going and working, running that rat race and that pace and that place will leave a bad taste for anyone, everyone working day after day. So buddy, I gotta say, for you, there's gotta be a better way, yeah. And you do what they told ya. Company man, feel like a mindless little soldier. How can you live like that and maintain your composure before it's begun? Your life's already freaking over. Yeah, I do what I want.
So, we have an awful lot to get to today. Oh my God, did I just do that? I've always hated when talk show hosts do that. Yeah, we have a lot to get to today, so let's get right into it. It's like we're in class. This is what my 9th grade algebra teacher used to say. We've got a lot to get through today, so,
Everybody sit down and shut up.
Yeah. So, Funkhauser, if you ever hear me say that again, we've got a lot to get to today in that sort of dictatorial teacher.
I have an
sort
alarm
of way.
for that.
Yeah, you can just kick me directly in the junk. That'll be
this.
perfectly acceptable.
I could play that.
What was that?
That's an alarm.
Oh.
Here's another alarm. Just in case.
I like it. Maybe we'll work on that a little bit and come up with a... See, there's nothing wrong with those alarms, but we need a sound effect that if I ever pull that sort of BS on the air, the way other talk show hosts do every single day, you need to find something that says, in addition to being an alarm, who do you think you are? Pull this one over the side of the pretend. There you go.
Biatch.
Maybe that should just be it. I don't know. I do know this though. Let me adjust how I came at that one. There is a lot that I would like to talk about today. So let's just dive right into the news. Super producer to the star, Barry Funkhauser, brings us his take on world events in our segment, My Witness News, in no way, shape, or form fair. Certainly not balanced. Funkhauser, how are you? And what is going on in the world?
I'm good, man. Another late night. Went and saw a concert. What do we call them? Experiences?
Experience? No. That was just that one festival that wanted to call itself an experience. Because, basically what it was they had a whole bunch of other things there. They had art, they had performance art, they had art shows, they had food and wine and spirits and comedy and all this sort of stuff. So they didn't want it to make it sound like a festival in that it was just limited to music and jugglers the way other festivals are. So yeah, they called it an experience, and I thought that was the right thing for them to do, but you can still call it festivals.
Yeah, and it took the sweetie to the experience last night.
This is, and just, to keep people, if you're updating your Funkhauser scorecards, when he says the sweetie, he's referring to Canadian Jane. He is now being Canadian mounted by one of our friends. He's now being Canadian mounted by one of our friends from the Great White Frozen North on a regular basis. And how is that working out?
Yes, thank you. Very well. First girlfriend I've had that doesn't have any body fat, so I'm constantly hot, and she's constantly cold.
Oh.
That's a new byproduct of relationship that I'm not used to.
That's interesting. That's so funny. That's one of those things that you never think about. Because, now for me, I appreciate all women and all of their body types. No, women have it so lucky. And I defer to the Drew Barrymore example on this one. But women can pack on a couple of pounds, and what happens? The cans get bigger, and they've got more junk in the trunk. Who likes big cans and junk in the trunk? Answer, literally everyone.
At least these guys.
Yeah, exactly. Or a chick can go hardcore into her diet and exercise and get all sort of cut and lean, and that's attractive too. And I always bring up the example of Drew Barrymore in this because she kind of fluctuated, when she was that pixie thin Flash David Letterman on top of his desk. That was a moment in time, and she was pretty lean, mean, and man when she did that. But then, fast forward to Charlie's Angels. In fact, there's one specific scene in Charlie's Angels that is forever emblazoned in my mind. It's a scene where Drew Barrymore is wearing that all-in-one Evel Knievel-esque jumpsuit, and it's the racing car thing. And she sort of unzips to get her way, hold on.
I don't
Let's
understand.
just pull that up
Can
on the
you say that
interwebs
again?
for a second. Well, Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore is wearing sort of like this all-in-one Evel Knievel-esque jumpsuit. And in order to get her way in the Charlie's Angels movies, she uses her feminine wiles. And by feminine wiles, I mean her cans. And she unzips the all-in-one Evel Knievel-esque jumpsuit in this one scene. And gonna need a second. Okay. Yeah. No, that's the good stuff right there. And that's Drew Barrymore after she's like, you know what, F it, I'm going to eat the donuts. And like, I think that's so cool that women can do that. Women have it so much better and easier than guys in that respect, because you can be like super thin and in shape, or you can pack on a couple extra pounds, get the bigger cans, the junk in the trunk. And you know what? We love all of it. We love all of it. It's awesome in its awesomeness. Whereas guys, we got to be ripped and toned. We don't have that advantage. We don't have that sort of like, when my body type fluctuates, the person in my life appreciates me for different reasons. No. Beer gut and man boobs is never a good look. Like, no woman's ever like, yeah, I like it when you pack on a few extra pounds. No. The love handles don't put me off at all. I definitely prefer them to whatever hint of a six-pack you used to have 6 months ago before you clawed your way to middle management in corporate America. Oh, did I reveal too much? I think I might have. But we didn't really get into the news, but we're gonna next, because we got a lot to get to.
iHeartRadio shines the spotlight on Van Morrison.
In 1968, Van released arguably the best album of his career, entitled Astral Weeks, noted for its poetic complexity incorporating folk-styled jazz. It was a success on all levels except its commercial response.
Can I just have one more dance with you, my love? Can I just make some more romance with you, my love?
In contrast, Morrison's 1970 optimistic follow-up, Moondance, not only catapulted the singer's popularity, but finally received public acclaim. From Moondance's release in 1970 onward, Morrison's records were said to stylize a more celebratory tone due to his recent marriage to Janet Planet and their relocation to California.
I'm going out and dance. Oh, come on out and make romance. Yes, indeed. Come on out and dance. Come on out, make romance.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Van Morrison and all your favorite artists.
Now, this week's top TV streams.
All right, what is it you guys have been watching on TV this week? Kicking off the countdown at number 10 is Girl Meets World. Boy Meets World was one of the best TV shows ever. So yeah, here we go with the spinoff. The League is at number 9. At number 8 this week, we have Teen Mom. At number 7, The Real Housewives of New York. Project Runway, for all you fabulous dressers out there, is at number 6 this week. South Park at number 5. I don't remember the last time there was an animated show on this countdown, but hey, I'm not surprised it's South Park. Number 4 is The Strain, Keeping Up with the Kardashians is at number 3. Doctor Who is at number 2. And at number 1, no surprise, Fear the Walking Dead. All right, guys, that's what you've been watching. I'll catch you next week.
That's this week's top TV streams.
Like most kids from a privileged white upper-middle-class suburban background, for a significant portion of his childhood, he was pretty convinced he was down. AD on the radio.
Yeah, oh, let's go. Talking that mess, better act like you know. Oh, let's go tonight. Walk away, punk, yeah, bitch. That's right, I know this. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. So walk away, yeah, yeah.
Funkhauser, what is what's the title of today's show?
The presidential cousin crop dusting scandal. Dun dun.
The presidential cousin's crop dusting scandal. Yep. The title of today's show would suggest that there is a giant fart joke waiting to happen. And it also manages to be news at the same time. A cousin of President Obama's is suing over farting. It's true. And if we have time, we're going to get to that. I'm trying to phrase this correctly. I would like to get to that if we have time today. But something just, something that has been on my mind all week that we haven't had a moment to talk about is our military. I don't know if you caught the New York Times article, but U.S. soldiers have been told to ignore Afghan allies' rampant sexual abuse of boys because it's quote unquote their culture, even if they do it on base. It's a heavy one, so prepare yourself. But there's some things that I would really love it if we would all think about with regard to our military and who they are and what they are forced to deal with on a regular basis and how they are not getting what they signed up for a lot of the time. Not only when they're in the Army doing what they think is going to be a benefit to humanity, which generally doesn't include the tacit approval of the rape of children. And then when they get back, when they try and become American citizens again and live a life at home after having been put through things like that. Anyways, like I said, it's kind of a heavy one. And if we can fit that in as well as the presidential cousin farting scandal, we will. Right now, though, let's roll through the news with super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser at Funk FM is where you can tweet him. At ADSXE is where you can tweet me. What's up, Funk?
You know, I think we should use Pope music today, but I didn't have any Pope music. I mean, it's Pope-a-palooza everywhere.
Yeah, it's all, everything's all
the news today.
Popey.
Pope.
You know what amazes me? What amazes me is, like, it's indicative in this country of how much people are just looking for a fight, how much people are just looking for an argument, how much people are just looking to use a little bit of incendiary rhetoric to try and get some clicks and tweets and likes, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. I've seen hardcore Catholics who, in the past, when I was just like, hey, the Vatican, they've got their own currency, technically their own country. They harbor child molesters. Nothing to be worried about there. It's not creepy and insidious at all. Not responsible for decades of genocide back in the day. Oh. And whenever I pointed out that sort of thing, some friends of mine who are both right-wing and Catholic are like, dude, you can't say that, dude, bro. Which is weird because that's honestly how most of the hardcore right-wing folks I know talk these days. And now it's totally true. It's the young Republicans. It's totally true. And now, like, I see these same people only too willing to take a swing at the Pope because that is what's going on. This is a liberal Pope. Oh, he showed up in a Fiat to show that he was pious. But then did you see the enormous security detail behind him burning all sorts of fossil fuels? Hypocritical Pope. And it's just like, chill the hell out. Yeah, there's a lot of skeletons in the Vatican's closet. But it's amazing to watch people who are willing to eat their young just to gain a little political traction. Does that make sense? Is that analogy working, Funkhauser? People willing to eat their young, people willing to burn their own at the stake. You know, a guy who a long time ago or quite recently was regarded as the holiest of all people on earth, the guy that had the most connected relationship with the big dude upstairs, His Holiness, the Pope, and now they're like, liberal Pope. It's like, it's bananas, the level of... Can we say this? Is this an overused political term? It's bananas the level of flip-flopping and hypocrisy that I've seen ever since the Pope showed up in America. He's definitely started a bit of a storm in the proverbial teacup. Have you noticed this, or is it just me?
Oh, yeah. Pope in Congress this morning.
That's very good. Very good. All right, what's going on in the world?
Who's Gisele Bundchen?
Gisele Bundchen?
And why is her new coffee table book $700?
Gisele Bundchen is the Brazilian supermodel, the highest paid model in the world, who also happens to be married to New England Patriot Tom Brady.
Interesting. Her new coffee table book is $700.
Unlike her husband's business ventures, that seems inflated. Go on.
Depends on what you're seeing inflated in the coffee table book.
Ayo.
Beyonce's father wants to arrange a new Destiny's Child album and tour, plus write a book and about him and set up a movie or a TV series.
Yeah. Beyonce's dad, Matthew Knowles, wants to get Destiny's Child back up in the game, which would be kind of like a monumental thing for the music business and for the people that listen to us in Houston, Texas. That the cultural impact there is really something. So, yeah, Matthew Knowles, Beyonce's dad, he's looking to get a Destiny's Child reunion album tour together, a book, and a movie or a TV series, because, it's either that or get a job. Not gonna get a job. Go on.
Asked his daughter, and she said, oh, no. Kendall Jenner says she still calls Caitlyn Jenner Dad.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, and apparently Caitlyn is okay with that. Kendall Jenner still calls Caitlyn Jenner Dad. In a related story, Caitlyn still calls Kendall slut. Go on.
You have a lot to learn from me there. Jessica Biel, Justin Timberlake's wife, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. She was one of the first. Yeah. She was one of the. Hold on a second. Yeah, she was one of the first to. She was one of the first white chicks to start packing on booty meat through squats. I remember she was showing it off. She was just like, "Hey, check it out." Pow! No longer flat as a board. You got competition, Shaniqua. Look at this. And she did it through squats, apparently.
Well, now she's starting a sex education online series.
Yeah, when I heard Jessica Biel was making sex videos, I was like, sweet. Oh, it's actual online sex education. Ugh. What is this you're talking about? Sex on the internet? Ha! Good luck with that. It'll never catch on. It'll never fly, Orville. No, it's actually kind of a cool sounding thing because I guess when she was trying to get knocked up, she'd been on the pill for a really long time. And when you come off the pill, there's all sorts of things that happen. And then she eventually did get pregnant and she was like, what is happening to my body? This is kind of nuts. And she realized how little she knew about her female business, nether regions, all of the above, the entire sort of kit and caboodle that chicks have going on south of the equator. And she's taken it upon herself to do sort of like an online sex education series for women that covers everything from puberty to reproduction and beyond. Like everything from getting knocked up to getting to an age where you could get knocked up to the whole sort of
things we don't know about because we're dudes.
It's funny. I was about to say it's very unfortunate timing because I was about to say lactation and I'm chewing gum and I was like, and the whole lactation thing, and I was like, I can't say lactation after smacking my lips like that. The two things were completely unrelated. I must chew gum in the mornings. It's the only way I can manage to get through. It's not professional. It's not
over there
polite.
Thinking about lactation.
Yeah, like I wasn't smacking my lips thinking of lactation.
But now you are.
Now I am, though. No, actually, I got to admit, seeing lactation on the internet, not for me.
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, what is this? Some people are into. Gah! No, that's good for babies and babies alone. I have absolutely no interest in that. That does not make me go from 6 to noon. In fact, that makes me go from noon to 6. Moving swiftly along, clickety click click. What else do we have here? Anything, literally anything. Oh, pregnant chicks, that's not working for me either. Okay, that's enough internet for one night.
Yes, I've fallen down a wormhole.
Yeah. I remember that. Lactation, no. Click, 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 click. Oh, pregnancy, no. Click, 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 click. And then it's back to thinking about Drew Barrymore in the Evil Knievel suit and Charlie's Angels and just shutting off the internet. That'll get you there. Go on. What else?
Here's a right turn. The Pope met with President Obama at the White House yesterday.
Yep. The foreign-born icon with well-intentioned but symbolic powers enjoyed the visit. As did the Pope. See what I did there? More Pope news, Funkhauser.
Donald Trump wants to meet the Popeness?
Yeah. Mostly, I think, to discuss a deal to buy his giant Pope hat, put his name on it, and lease it as one of his high-rises.
Before we begin, I like the other Pope a lot better. I think there's been too many popes. There's too many popes here. We got to eliminate
It's a bad
two or three
deal.
of them.
It's a bad deal. One of the worst deals in history. I think it'd be cool if Donald Trump met the Pope. You know what I love about it? There are so many things that Donald Trump is right about. And I think Donald Trump running for president is... I don't think he's going to get elected because ultimately he's Donald freaking Trump. He's way out ahead now. But when the grim reality of pulling the lever and having the idea, when the grim reality of pulling the lever and having this guy as a president of the United States and leader of the free world sinks in, I don't think people are going to be able to do it. But he is so right about so many things that are wrong with politics in America. And I think we're probably going to do a whole show on that next week. Everything from... Well, I mean, he speaks from personal experience, the stuff about being a businessman where he goes, see all the people that I'm debating against? I've had all of them in my pocket at one point because of campaign donations. And then they're essentially my bitches and they jump however high I tell them to jump. That's how politics works in this country, and that's not right. And Donald Trump is not like all bent out of shape about religion either. That's nice. Look, separation of church and state. Let's keep the church the hell out of the state. We've done shows on this before. We'll probably do shows on this again in the future. But Donald Trump is not a person who needs to kowtow to the religious right so he can separate money. A fool and his money are soon parted. And there's no bigger fool than someone that can be told, hey, if you don't vote this way, you're blowing it with God. So dig deep when we pass the collection plate so we can pass it on to this guy's campaign finance coffers. Donald Trump doesn't need to go to religious groups. Donald Trump doesn't need to go to religious groups to get money for his campaign. So he doesn't have to kowtow to the religious right the way people like Rand Paul do. Rand Paul's a doctor. He doesn't believe that gay marriage will lead to bestiality, but he said it because when he goes, no, gay marriage will lead to bestiality, you know what happens? People open their wallets for him. The non-opposable, thumb-having, cross-burning, AR-15 hoarding, mud hut dwelling husbands and sister wives reach quick into their pocket to give him every last cent that they can. And that's why someone like Rand Paul says something like that. He's a medical doctor. He doesn't for one tiny second believe that gay marriage will lead to bestiality. He knows they have no relationship, but he and all the other politicians say this sort of stuff because it makes them money. And you know what you need to win an election in America? Money. Lots and lots of money. People are like, oh, Scott Walker was such a patriot by stepping down and allowing the field to be narrowed so we could get this clown Trump out of the equation. Scott Walker ran out of money. Otherwise, he'd be in it to win it still. And people are like, oh, he polled badly. Yeah, he was on top of the freaking world a month or so ago. So, he ran out of money. Bottom line. That's why Scott Walker is not in the race for it anymore. And you know what? Because Donald Trump has his own cash, he doesn't have to kiss ass to the religious right to separate those fools from their money, as fools and money are soon parted. He brings a certain cleanliness to campaigning, as crazy as that is. And we're going to do a whole show on everything good that Donald Trump is bringing to American politics, whether or not he realizes it or whether or not that's his intention. We'll do that next week. And I know, I'm hearing the angry tweets already as people hammer them out, being like, Donald Trump's this, that, and the other thing. And how could you possibly say that? Hear me on this one. When it comes time to face the grim reality of pulling the lever for democracy and electing Donald Trump as the president of the United States of America, I do not think it's going to happen. People are going to be like, oh, he's Trump. I can't do it. But there's so much that he's bringing to the equation that is so important. And we're going to take a good, hard look at that next week. Up next, we take a good, hard look at what people in our military have been forced to do, the compromises that they have been forced to make. Not only the compromises that they were expected to make, but the compromises in the face of human atrocity that they're being asked to make on a regular basis.
This is USA Headline News. I'm Melody Burkett. Pope Francis is addressing a joint meeting of Congress.
I am most grateful for your invitation to address this joint session of Congress in the land of the free, at the home of the brave.
It is a historic event as no pope has ever addressed Congress before. The pontiff noted that U.S. lawmakers are called on to defend and preserve the dignity of your fellow citizens. Meanwhile, the Pope will visit St. Patrick's Cathedral, Madison Square Garden, and the 9/11 Memorial and Museum before he departs for Philadelphia Saturday morning. Donald Trump's lead over the GOP field of presidential candidates is shrinking. Today's Quinnipiac University national poll of likely Republican voters has Trump on top with 25% support. Ben Carson is second with 17%, and Carly Fiorina is third at 12%. For the USA Headline News, I'm Melody Burkett.
Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Credit card companies lure you in with low introductory rates or low minimum payments. And before you know it, you owe thousands of dollars in credit card debt. It has happened to millions of good people just like you. But here's the good news. Thanks to a powerful program now approved, anyone with $2,000 or more in credit card debt can cut their credit card payments up to half and even reduce or eliminate interest charges altogether. That's right. Our nationwide nonprofit program is helping U.S. residents cut their credit card payments. Call 800-991-6376 now. The call and information are free. Credit Guard has helped over 500,000 people with their credit card debt, and now we can help you. Call 800-991-6376 to see how this powerful nonprofit program can work for you. Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Get free of credit card debt today. Call 800-991-6376. That's 800-991-6376. Again, 800-991-6376.
Trending. Check out baseball games involving the playoff races. Things tightening up for the American League wildcard second spot. The Angels beat the Astros 6-5. So the Angels are now a game and a half back of Houston for that second American League wildcard spot. Meanwhile, the Twins beat the Indians 4-2. Minnesota is 1 game back of Houston for that second American League wildcard spot. Blue Jays shut out the Yankees 4-0. Toronto is back up by 3.5 on New York for first place in the AL East. Rangers down the A's 10-3. Texas is now 3 games up on Houston for the AL West lead. Pirates clinch a playoff spot for the 3rd straight season thanks to a 13-7 win over the Rockies. Right now, the Cardinals and Pirates are the only 2 teams so far to have clinched playoff spots. Cubs fall to the Brewers 4-1. Chicago's 3 back of Pittsburgh for the first National League wildcard spot and home field in a 1-game playoff. In the NFL, New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees didn't throw in practice Wednesday, but says he has every intention of playing against the Panthers on Sunday. I'm Eddie Garcia.
iHeartRadio puts the spotlight on Creedence Clearwater Revival. Late in 1970, number 5 album, Pendulum, was released, the only Creedence album without any cover songs. During recording, Tom Fogerty quit when John took greater control over the band, and the rest continued as a trio. Despite the turmoil, Have You Ever Seen the Rain peaked at number 8. Tensions between the remaining 3 members continued to grow, and CCR disbanded after releasing 1972's Mardi Gras. The Fogerty brothers each went on to solo careers, while Cook and Clifford worked together in the Don Harrison Band before forming Creedence Clearwater Revisited in 1995. Tom Fogerty passed away in 1990. Creedence Clearwater Revival has sold 26 million albums in the United States alone and was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1993. All things Creedence Clearwater Revival, info, music, and more are on iHeartRadio, keyword Creedence Clearwater Revival.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Bob Seger to discuss his favorite process for developing new songs.
The way I do it, I sing into an ADAT machine, which has about 40 minutes. I might fill up 2 or 3 of them. Then I just go away, come back the next day, and listen to what I did. If there's nothing there, I start again. But I might hear one chord change. I might hear one thing I mumbled lyrically and say, oh, I never even caught that when I did it. You know, it's like you just totally a free-form thing, almost a jazz thing. And sooner or later, you know, a structure, a chord structure, or a phrase, or the way I sang something jumps out at me and it becomes the germ for a song, you know? And that's really fun.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more
Real Radio 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again, nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again, nobody rock a party better than me.
So I get a call last night from my credit card company, and they're like, hey, we noticed something out of your usual spending pattern. And I was like, oh, no. Because like a few weeks ago or a few months ago, I got a similar call where they're like, we noticed something unusual with your spending pattern. Did you buy tickets to go see Maná in Mexico City? I was like, no, I did not. Actually sounds like a good time. Maná, in case you're not familiar with them, are sort of like the Mexican version of the Police or U2 or something like that, and are pretty formidable at what they do. But I was like, no, that wasn't me. So I had to get, and I have everything set up to auto pay on my credit card, and it effing sucked. So I just had to get everything redone. No harm, no foul. Didn't lose any money. The credit card company was actually really good about it, but it was just a huge pain in the stones. And then I got a call last night where they're like, hey, we noticed something a little out of the ordinary with your spending patterns. Did you spend $10 in Vancouver, Washington? I was like, what? No, there is a Vancouver, Washington. I was like, are you asking me if I went to Canada? They're like, no, Vancouver, Washington. I was like, A, who knew there was a city called that? B, no, I did not.
Vancouver.
And, Vancouver. Yeah, no, it made me go into sort of like, I just got all stressed out and itchy because of it. And it made me yearn for a happier time when I didn't care about that sort of thing because I hadn't spent years repairing my awful credit.
I tell you what's great about filing bankruptcy and having terrible credit. Like, I no longer worry about identity theft. I give away my PIN numbers, my social security number, my mom's maiden name. If you can open up an account with that crap, good luck. Like 2 weeks after I filed bankruptcy, some guy stole my identity, and he actually tried to bring it back. I'm like, you dude, that's you now. Finders keepers. Maybe you can open up a prepaid credit card. You could help reestablish our credit.
That's honestly how I used to feel about the idea of identity theft and getting my credit card stolen. I was like, whatever, do your worst. Oh, you're free to all $350 of my credit limit. Go nuts. And now I've spent, years becoming an adult and trying to repair all that. I was freaked the hell out when they were like, did you spend money, $10 at a place in Vancouver, Washington? I was like, no. What was the name of the place? And then I Googled it and realized it was a food truck that came down here and was peddling their delicious barbecue sandwiches, and I did indeed eat one of those. But man, it's an interesting, with all these traveling food vendors or traveling vendors that you see around the country now, it opens up an entirely new can of worms. It's interesting stuff.
It goes to the other side too. When I was in Vegas, none of my credit cards work because I didn't tell them that I was leaving.
Right. Yeah, no, you got to do that. If you're on the road, you got to be like, hey, I'm going to be going to Vegas, so you're going to see some weird stuff. And like, also Vegas must set off a whole other set of alarm bells. It's like, they stole the client's credit card and they went to Vegas. Abort. Like, you could do some serious damage in a city like Vegas with a quickness. And so I don't blame them for shutting it off. You got to get on that stuff and alert them to your travel plans to help protect all the things that you got to protect. The other thing that I did this past weekend just gone by when I was eating food from delicious food trucks, it was a radio station event, and I, at my radio gig, was talking to the promo kid, as we affectionately call them, really, a 26-year-old woman. But, because they stand outside a tent handing out koozies with the name of a radio station on it, they are forever emblazoned with the name promo kid. But I was talking to the promo kid, and she was talking about her boyfriend and how she was kind of going through some very real, very palpable struggles with him. She'd been with him for a very, very long time. And the relationship was way up in the air, and it was very difficult for her. And a lot of the problems they were having seemed to stem from the fact that his life was somewhat rudderless. Mostly, she felt, due to the fact that he spent some time in the Army. A lot of time in the Army. See, they got him young. And as they do with many, many people. And let me just first and foremost clarify this. If you are a veteran, or if you are a soldier, if you are deployed, whether you're not deployed, if you've enlisted, if you've signed up, whatever the case may be, I could not possibly have more respect for you. I could not possibly find adequate words to say thank you for the fact that you are willing to put your life on the line for ours, to protect our freedoms. And I can't find the words adequate to thank you enough, but I will start with thank you. Thank you 1,000 times. But this guy, he went into the military. He went into the military young, and now he's out, and he's struggling. He is struggling at home, and this is where the problem lies. She's like, we have all sorts of challenges in our relationship because, well, he's unable to find a job and he has PTSD, and now he's thinking of going back, and I don't want him to go back for all sorts of reasons. See, he's back. He was deployed. He saw some crazy, gnarly things. Now he's unable to sort of get himself reintegrated into day-to-day life and everyday society, which is completely understandable given the things that he's seen and he's done, and the fact that he has PTSD. She thinks he might be bipolar. He thinks he might be bipolar. He has a drinking problem because he's been self-medicating his PTSD and not able to do really much beyond that because the VA hasn't really provided him with too many other options. Like, I think he tried to get psychological help, but he just got the runaround. And so because he wasn't able to get the treatment, or because he's still unable to get the treatment that he needed, he's been self-medicating. He has a drinking problem. He suffers from PTSD. He can't find a job. And he's so desperate that he says he wants to deploy again. And he straight up said it. It's not this time because he wants to serve his country. It's because he can't make anything happen for himself in civilian life. He's like, I love you. I love the idea that we could have a life here together, but I can't make anything happen here. So I think I want to deploy again. What's he looking at, dealing with, if he goes back? We'll get to that. And the fact that we have the biggest military budget in the world in just a second.
iHeartRadio shines the spotlight on Rush. In 1980, Rush released Permanent Waves. Rush soon became one of the most successful bands in the world. The following year, they released Moving Pictures. The album reached number 3 and sold more than 4 million copies.
He gets high on you. When the space he invades, he gets by on you.
With the release of Signals in 1982, Rush's sound underwent yet another change. Synthesizers were now at the forefront of the group's music. The album included Rush's only top 40 hit single in the U.S., New World Man. Through the rest of the 80s, the band kept a somewhat lower profile, not spending as much time on the road. Even so, its albums continued to go gold or platinum. Rush began what amounted to a 5-year hiatus in 1997. Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Rush and all your favorite artists.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Mike Rutherford to discuss that even though there were generational difficulties, his father was always quite supportive.
You know, you've got to understand, I'm sure it's the same over here, but in the UK, in England, you know, that generational change from my father's era to my era, you know, he was the English Empire days, 2 world wars. It was hard to communicate. There was a big divide between us. It's just, there was no dialogue really. You couldn't discuss things because there was no sort of platform to share conversations on. But no, he was supportive, and in a way, you know, given that he hadn't got a clue what I was doing, you know, what parent did in those days, you know, music, long hair and a guitar, he was given that. He was very supportive.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Mike Rutherford and all your favorite artists.
Now, someone who everybody wants to punch in the face. AD on the radio.
So, If you're just joining us, this past weekend just gone by, I was at a radio station appearance type thing, and I was talking to one of our promotional staff. She's in kind of a rough spot at the moment because, well, she's got this boyfriend that she's been with since they were teenagers. He went into the Army young and has had, as many do, and this is why 1 out of 3 homeless males is a veteran, had problems reintegrating back into society. Now, he's got a drinking problem because he's been self-medicating his PTSD. He hasn't been able to get the psychological help he needs from the VA. He says he feels like he's directionless and he's ready to deploy again, not because he wants to serve his country the way he did the first time he went overseas to pick up a gun to protect our freedoms, and I could not thank him enough for that. But this time he straight up said, I can't make anything happen for myself in civilian life. I've got to deploy again. The fact that he can't get the help that he needs when he gets home is, quite frankly, disgusting. These are figures that are trotted out on a regular basis. But if you look at our military spending, and a big part of the campaign platforms of the right, certainly this time out, is that we need to put more money and more resources and more finances into our military and have a stronger, more dominant military so that we can, do what has to be done as a superpower. And I kind of get that, and I sort of understand that, and I respect that. But if you're at a point where we're spending over $600 billion a year, and behind us, in at number 2, is the People's Republic of China, and they're spending 1/3 of that, about $200 billion. You think that perhaps, maybe, perchance, some of the largest military budget in the world, so much so that it's more than I think, well, we're in at number 1. And if you combine the amount of money that is spent from number 2 to 25 on that list, it still doesn't equal what we're spending. You would like to think, wouldn't you? Especially if you were someone that was willing to put your life on the line to protect our freedom. You would like to think that some of that could be used to take care of you when you got home. Former President George W. Bush, who gets a lousy rap a lot of the time for some really excellent reasons, which we won't go into here, but there's a lot of people that are justified. A lot of people on the right, I knew, a lot of Republicans, dyed-in-the-wool Republicans in Houston, Texas, George Bush's hometown. It got to a point where they're like, you know what? I voted for him, but until he's out of office, I am no longer a Republican. I am a conservative independent. It was George W. Bush that I think started the splintering on the right that caused like the Tea Party and the third party politics and all this. They were just like, we wanted to be Republicans, but we just can't hang with this guy. He gets a bum rap a lot of the time, and sometimes for some very justifiable reasons. But he had some excellent things to say about veterans. He did it during the Bush Institute's Empowering Our Nation's Warriors Summit. He said that veterans are the 1% of the population that others should wholeheartedly support. He said they are the 1% of Americans that kept the 99% safe. We owe them and their families a deep debt of gratitude. Now, is this hypocritical in the face of his administration and how treated veterans? That is a whole big old ball of wax that we don't have time to get into today, but I just want to let you know I'm aware of the glaring, hey, what about, when we're listening to what he had to say. But he said what most veterans want is to have their service understood and appreciated for what it is, a formative experience in their lives and a source of skills and values that prepare them to succeed in civilian lives. He said it's not surprising that it can be tough for veterans to find work after returning to civilian life. He said you don't see many job postings that say wanted, experience in hunting insurgents and terrorists willing to risk life for coworkers. What's a veteran supposed to put down? My last office was a Humvee. He said today's veterans don't need a handout, but a hand up. Some of us are facing very tough obstacles right now. And we all just want to be productive members of our society. One of my best friends is a Marine. And, well, look, let's just lay it out there. These soldiers are not being looked after. They have wounds on the inside and on the outside. And I lay their problems at the foot of the White House. And this isn't a matter of who's been in office. Don't tell me it's because of our libtard Kenyan commie president. Don't tell me it's because of Reagan and the Bush families or Clinton. This lack of care for our military transcends party politics, as do most things we talk about on this show. Say it again. This lack of care for our military transcends party politics. One of my best friends is a Marine. Now he's in real estate. And I love my friends who have been in the military. Why? Because they're so reliable. There's a guy that works for me here at the station, and he's not a Marine. He was in the Navy. And when it comes to if you manage to give away a portion of your soul and claw your way up to middle management in corporate America, and you have people working under you, you'll probably understand this. But you have all these folks that are there to get stuff done, and out of maybe the five that I have working for me, there's one guy who I will go to every single time. Why? Because he's former military. He's so reliable. I can give him something to do and know it's going to get done. I love that about him. And we've talked about it. I was like, are you so reliable because you come from a work background where if you don't do the things that you say you're going to do, people die? He was like, yeah, you just do what you're going to do. And if you can't do it, you tell people. And I love my military friends because they're so reliable when it comes to just being friends, hanging out. You know, when we say Starbucks at 5, my military friends are never the ones who text me as I'm sitting there like an idiot at 5:15 being like, I'm just in the shower, order me a latte. Love that. But I asked this buddy of mine who's in real estate now, used to be a Marine, and I asked him why he bailed. He had intended to have a military career, and he was just like, there's so much wasted time and energy and money. There's so much waste. He was like, our military just pisses resources and man hours away. And he saw some active duty. But what he was doing while he wasn't on active duty made him get out. He was like, it was days and days of, hey, pick up those boxes and put them over there. Hey, you know those boxes you picked up and put over there yesterday? We're going to need you to move them back. He was like, it was just so wasteful. This is time, this is money, this is resources. And I couldn't work for an organization that was so poorly organized. He's like, I especially couldn't work for an organization that was so poorly organized and wasting these resources when they could be spending them, when they could be spending this time, this money, these resources on helping some of my friends who are dealing with very real problems at home, not only because of the wounds they have on the outside, but because of the wounds they have on the inside. So he got out because he was like, this is not a good use of the American people's money. This is not a good use of what we have. I can't be a part of this anymore. We can do more. We should do more. But this isn't on us. This isn't just on us. Every time I turn around, civilians are doing more. Because we have to do more. Uncle Scam is not. Uncle Scam is not keeping up their end of the bargain when it comes to, hey, you signed up for our military? Well, you know, because you were willing to die for us, we're going to look after you when you get home. We're going to set you up with jobs. We're going to give you health care. We're going to help you reintegrate yourself back into society. Uncle Scam is not doing that. Every single time I turn around, we, us, the civilians, the public, we're doing more. But it can't just be on us. It's time for Uncle Scam to step up and do more. Here's the thing. I'm sorry to say, but I don't believe they will. I don't believe they will after reading stories like this. Did you see the article in the New York Times? They reported that in his last phone call home, Lance Corporal Gregory Buckley Jr. told his father what was troubling him. From his bunk in southern Afghanistan, he could hear Afghan police officers sexually abusing boys that they had brought to the base, his allies. He said, at night, we can hear them, Dad. We can hear them screaming, but we're not allowed to do anything about it. The guy's dad was like, you got to tell your superiors. He said, my son said that his officers told him to look the other way because it's their culture. Rampant sexual abuse of children has been a problem in Afghanistan, especially among armed commanders who dominate much of the rural landscape and can bully the population. They have a name for it. It's called bakabazi, and it translates literally into boy play. And American soldiers and Marines have been instructed not to intervene. And when they have, it hasn't gone well. Vets are now speaking out, saying that they are troubled that instead of weeding out pedophiles, the American military was arming them, and in some cases, placing them as commanders of villages, and doing little when they abuse children. There's a guy called Dan Quinn, former Special Forces captain. He beat up an American-backed militia commander for keeping a boy chained to his bed as a sex slave. Sorry. Just letting that sink in for a moment. Dan Quinn, former Special Forces captain, who beat up an American-backed militia commander for keeping a boy chained to his bed as a sex slave, said, "The reason we were here is because we heard the terrible things the Taliban was doing to people, how they were taking away human rights, but we were putting people into power who would do things that were worse than what the Taliban did." After the beatdown, the Army relieved Captain Quinn of his command and pulled him from Afghanistan. He has since left the military. Army's also trying to forcibly retire Sergeant First Class Charles Martland, a Special Forces member who joined Captain Quinn in beating up the commander. Republican Representative Duncan Hunter said the Army contends that Martland and others should have looked the other way, which is, of course, nonsense. If you are in the military, I'm sure that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of the things that you're being asked to do that can leave you with nightmares on a daily basis. And you're threatened with dishonorable discharge. You're threatened with being court-martialed. You're threatened with having your career ruined. You're threatened with so many things that those of us not in the military don't understand the implications of. But it would take an incredible amount of bravery to do what these men did, fly in the face of orders and do what they believed to be right, to stop a human rights atrocity, to stop the rape of a boy that had been chained to a bed by one of the people that they were there to protect, arm, and give power to. So if you are in the military and you feel like you don't have the support of your commanding officer, you feel like you don't have the support of your government, I want you to know that no matter what, you will always, always have our support. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for all that you do.